Hey guys, it's Farhan at Damond Motorsports. I've been seeing a lot of people asking lately online forums about what high pressure fuel pump internals they have on a car that they bought second-hand, third-hand, fourth-hand. So today I'm going to do a real quick one. I'm going to show you real briefly how to take the high pressure fuel pump off and how to take the internals out and take a look at if you have stock internals or aftermarket internals out. When this nut gets loosened, it likes to take off down in the hole behind this water manifold and EGR cooler. So you put a little zip tie here so that when this nut comes off, it stays right here. This line has this little blue clip. You just open it up like that, spread it. That takes the clip on the two sides inside, on both there. When you open it up, you kind of have to push it the other way and then it lets go. So now that everything is out of the way, time to take out the pump. There are 3 bolts to the high pressure fuel pump. There, and one that's about in the middle underneath it. You want to use an E8, you generally just need a 1/4 inch, and we're going to take this out evenly. Get that out the way. The underside of this thing does see oil, so there may be some oil spilling out. There is a bucket in there that sits on the camshaft that sometimes likes to come out too. Make sure you're ready to catch that when we got this all loose and ready to come out. There's a spring underneath this that goes on the camshaft. So I just wiggled it a little, now that spring's pushing out on it. You want to walk it out nice and straight. There is a dowel in there also. This line yet. This one you kind of just spread the tangs on 2 sides. Spread that one that way, this side goes that way. It'll just slide back halfway off the clip. Don't lose it. Lots of people pop off this blue one and that yellow one and then I gotta go searching. This pump has not been off for a while. There is a cam bucket in there. Sometimes it'll work its way out. Just make sure that is in there. Right? For whatever reason, I'm seeing more pictures of people that forget to make sure this is in there or forget to put it back in. You can just leave it in there. Put it in a vise, real deep, 18mm. This one. I imagine most people are gonna struggle to just do this with their fingers. We already knew that car had Autotechs in it. This was more just an activity to show you how to get things apart and clean these up a little bit. They've been in that car a long time. I'm actually really curious if I pull another one off the shelf what the serial numbers are currently. Because this one is 13,800 something. So that's a set of Autotech internals. Some of the buildup you just saw in here was actually from this car running ethanol. It's ran ethanol for a long time. It's back on 93 now. This is actually the first time these internals have been apart to service them at all. Probably going on a decade. Now here's a stock set. When you look at the top of these, the spring is the same, the keepers are the same between the stock set and the Autotech set. I've reassembled the stock ones just to show you how these would come apart because that's what's going to be in it when you're taking these off your car or you don't know what's in there. This is what the stock setup looks like. Retainer's different. The piston isn't actually stuck down there. On these, if you get under there and push up hard enough, that piston would pop out. So you can see it moving a little. Stock piston, Autotech piston with many miles on it. Okay. Here's the retainer setup for both so you can see it. So if you bought a car and you don't know what internals are in it, when you take off your high pressure fuel pump, if it's stock, it'll look like that. If it's got Autotechs, it'll look like it. So while we're here, here's actually the point of putting in bigger fuel pump internals. It is literally a bigger diameter on the piston. So along with that piston, the Autotechs, bigger diameter on the housing, the stock one versus the stock ones. The whole point of that is the bigger piston, every time it goes up and down, will move more fuel than the smaller stock piston. That's the entire point of upgrading your fuel pump internals, is to be able to move more fuel per cycle. Because you only have as many cycles as you have revolutions of the engine. The only way to get more fuel through, to maintain pressure in your high pressure fuel pump rail, is to have a bigger piston to push it. So reassembling, I put the top on. I already pushed the piston all the way up so that it's nice and easy to put these keepers on. There we go, keepers are in. We're just gonna knock that back down and that thing should be nice and retained now. pretty easy to tell with that dowel there, it goes to that hole. Also, the connector goes up top. So when we get this snuck back in there, you're gonna make sure that dowel is just about lined up. Now, I can just barely get it on there before I start compressing that spring. So while I'm there, I'm gonna hook a bolt onto it. And just get that guy started. Before you go any further, get that hard line on the bottom of this thing. Because if you bolt it in and you don't have that hard line on, just like I don't have that hard line on right now, this is gonna scratch the hell out of that hard line and you may have problems sealing it. Because it's not lining up, I'm actually gonna take those bolts back out and do this again. Sometimes you can just push it on there by loosening things up just a little bit. There we go. The nut that's still right here, because my zip tie did its job. So very easy to cross thread, be careful with that. Just get it hooked down a thread or so. Don't tighten it yet. Tighten it after you've got the fuel pump down. That way everything is nice and straight. Same thing as before, because there's an O-ring in there and there's a dowel in there. I don't like just putting one bolt down, so I'll go around and tighten them a little bit at a time. Fuel line just goes right on. Okay. It should be easy to push that on. If you can't push that on, that line isn't on all the way. So push the line down harder and then the clip should just snap right on. This guy should be nice and easy. Just clips right on. Put that guy back on. And we're all done up here. Of course, the intake is still off. Now remember that hard line nut that I took off down here? Like I said, it was still sitting down there. I had it on half a turn just to hold the hard line in place, and you see everything is still nice and lined up. So nut comes up, and this should thread on really easily. Generally, you may catch a couple threads here and there, but if you're fighting this thing, stop and realign things because it means you're cross-threaded. These are actually very nice threads generally. You should not be fighting this thing going up until you get up quite a ways. It is a hard line connection, so the harder you tighten, it's just gonna cut into your groove. Don't go nuts on it. So that's it. Now, I'm not even gonna bother putting this car completely back together because we're actually test fitting some other stuff on it. But that's the quick version of how you take the pump out, see what sort of internals you got on there. If you need high pressure fuel pump internals, they're available at DamondMotorsports.com.